Your whole life, you were told intelligence is the ticket. Good grades, high IQ, sharp opinions in every room you walk into. You were told that if you're smart enough, the money follows eventually, that competence gets noticed, that merit gets rewarded, that being the smartest person in the room is its own kind of currency. Nobody told you that's a comfortable lie. Because real financial power has almost nothing to do with how smart you sound. It has everything to do with a hidden ladder, a hierarchy of financial awareness that most intelligent men never even notice exists. And the cruel twist is this: your intelligence doesn't help you climb that ladder. Most of the time, it keeps you stuck on one specific rung, dressed up to look like wisdom. There are 7 of these rungs, 7 traps, each one convincing the man standing on it that he's already ahead, each one built specifically to catch a smart man, because a stupid man wouldn't overthink his way into any of them. A man who never learned to analyze doesn't get trapped by analysis. A man who never learned to argue doesn't get addicted to being right. These traps are precision-built for intelligence. That's what makes them so hard to see from the inside, and they get worse as you climb, because the higher rungs don't look like traps anymore. They look like maturity. They look like discipline. They look, from the outside, exactly like progress. That's what makes them dangerous. You can spend a decade climbing what feels like a ladder of growth, and never once notice you were still standing still the entire time. Machiavelli understood something about men like you long before psychology gave it a name, that intelligence without ruthless application is just an elaborate form of paralysis. He didn't write The Prince for men who wanted to feel clever discussing power at a dinner table. He wrote it for men who wanted results, men who were willing to trade the comfort of understanding for the discomfort of acting. So don't skim this, don't nod along, and move to the next video, telling yourself this applies to someone else. Find your rung. Because one of these 7 has your name written on it right now, and pretending otherwise is exactly the kind of quiet self-deception that keeps a smart man exactly where he is. Let's climb. At the bottom of the ladder is a man who feels anything but asleep. He reads, he researches, he can explain a business model, a tax strategy, an investment thesis, in more detail than the people actually doing it. Ask him about margins, about market timing, about the mechanics of leverage, and he'll give you an answer sharper than most professionals could manage. But here's what nobody tells him. His brain rewards understanding as if it were achievement. The dopamine hit from getting it feels almost identical to the satisfaction of building something real. So he keeps collecting knowledge the way other men collect trophies, stacking course after course, book after book, and the knowledge sits there, inert, making him feel productive while producing absolutely nothing. This is the man with 40 saved YouTube videos on real estate investing and 0 properties. The man who can recite the entire history of a stock he's never bought. The man who reads about discipline instead of practicing it. Who studies negotiation instead of negotiating. Who has consumed more content on building wealth than most millionaires ever bothered to. Meanwhile, a less informed man reads half the book, misses the nuance entirely, and starts the business anyway. He makes mistakes the sleeper would never make. Obvious ones, embarrassing ones, because the sleeper understood the risks too clearly to ever take them. And that's exactly why the less informed man is 3 years ahead by the time the sleeper finishes his research. He's already failed twice, learned from both, and built something real, while the sleeper is still refining his spreadsheet. Machiavelli warned rulers about exactly this, the danger of being so absorbed in analysis that the window for decisive action closes while you're still calculating the odds. He respected the prince who won wars, not the one who could explain in exhaustive and elegant detail exactly why the war was unwinnable. Understanding is not leverage. Action is leverage. Everything else is rehearsal for a performance you never give. Ask yourself, honestly, how many ideas are sitting in your notes app right now that you fully understand, that you could explain to anyone in the room and have never once acted on? How long has that number been growing? Climb one rung and you meet a sharper version of the same man. He stopped just consuming knowledge, now he uses it, in arguments, in meetings, in comment sections at midnight over topics that will not matter by morning. He needs to be the one who's correct, and correcting people has quietly become his identity. Be honest with yourself. How many arguments have you won this year? How many times have you corrected a coworker, proven a point at dinner, outdebated a stranger online, walked away from a conversation feeling sharper, superior, victorious? Now ask, how much money did winning any of them put in your account? This is a leash disguised as confidence. Every time you need to be right in the moment, you're spending something more valuable than the point you just proved. A relationship, a deal, a door that quietly closes because you couldn't let a flawed idea pass unchallenged. Somewhere, a business partner remembers being embarrassed in front of a client. Somewhere, an investor remembers feeling talked down to. None of it shows up as a line item. All of it shows up eventually. The wealthy man plays differently. He'll let you think you won the argument if it means he walks away with the contract. He'll nod at an idea he knows is wrong because correcting you isn't worth what it costs him. His ego isn't for sale, but it's not on display either. He keeps it in his pocket, where it belongs, brought out only when it actually serves him. Watch closely, and you'll notice something uncomfortable. The men with real money in the room are rarely the loudest or the most obviously correct. They ask questions. They let others perform their intelligence while quietly making the decisions that matter. They understand that looking smart and being powerful are two entirely different games, and only one of them pays. Machiavelli's prince never let pride dictate diplomacy. He was willing to appear foolish, humble, even wrong, if it served the larger objective, because appearance was a tool, not an identity, to defend at every turn. Being right feels like power. Being rich is power. The men stuck on this rung have spent years confusing the two, mistaking the applause of a one argument for the quiet, unglamorous accumulation that actually builds something. One rung higher is where the real cruelty begins. This man's intelligence lets him model outcomes other people can't even see. He can trace an idea 5 steps forward and identify precisely where it collapses. He spots the flaw before he's finished writing the plan, sees the tax implication before the lawyer mentions it, calculates the downside before anyone else in the room has finished their coffee. Most people call this being strategic. It's actually paralysis wearing a respectable costume, dressed up in spreadsheets and scenario planning, so it never has to admit what it really is. Because here's what his intelligence never shows him: the version of the future where he never tried at all. That timeline has failure points too. He just can't see them because inaction doesn't announce its damage the way a failed venture does. It bleeds him slowly, quietly, invisibly, one missed year at a time, one opportunity that went to someone slower but braver. I lived on this rung. I spent nearly 2 years analyzing a single business model before launching it. Spreadsheets, contingency plans, worst-case scenarios mapped out in exhausting detail. Every possible failure point accounted for in advance. By the time I finally moved, a friend of mine, far less analytical than me, had already built and sold a version of the same idea. He didn't outthink me. He wasn't smarter, and he'd be the first to admit it. He simply never let thinking replace doing. He made peace with not knowing how it would end before he started. The average man researches risk until it disappears. It never does, but he keeps looking anyway, because looking feels like progress. The strategic man accepts that risk never disappears, only changes shape and moves anyway, absorbing the discomfort instead of trying to engineer it away. Machiavelli said fortune favors the bold because caution is surrender dressed as wisdom. He wasn't reckless. He simply understood that hesitation has a cost too. It just never shows up on a balance sheet the way a bad investment does. It shows up as the years that quietly vanished while you were still deciding. You don't have a risk problem. You have a visibility problem. You see the downside so clearly, in such vivid and convincing detail, that you never walk toward the upside, because the upside, by comparison, always looks vague and unproven. Higher still, and something more personal takes hold. This man has built a story about himself. The smart one who never got the credit. The misunderstood genius. The one who should have been rich by now if the world weren't so unfair, if his boss weren't so blind, if the market weren't so rigged. That story feels protective. It explains the gap between his intelligence and his bank account without ever forcing him to examine his own choices. It lets him stay who he is, without the discomfort of asking whether who he is might be part of the problem. But a story like that has a price. It quietly requires him to keep failing, just enough to keep the narrative alive. If he actually succeeded, the story would collapse, and success would mean rewriting who he is. Rewriting your identity is more threatening to most men than staying poor ever will be, because staying poor is familiar, and familiar, even when it hurts, feels safer than the unknown. Meanwhile, someone with a fraction of his vocabulary has no story to protect, no image of himself as misunderstood. He just wants the result, without the narrative attached to it. So he takes the unglamorous jobs, the boring first steps, the humbling entry-level work this man considers beneath his intelligence. And 5 years later, he isn't underestimated anymore. He's simply ahead, without ever needing anyone to acknowledge how smart he was along the way. Machiavelli never let reputation dictate reality. He cared about outcomes, not about how the story of his rise would sound when it was told later, not about whether history would give him proper credit for his cleverness. Ask yourself, are you protecting your future or protecting a version of yourself that requires you to stay small? Is the story you tell about being overlooked actually true, or is it the only explanation that lets you avoid the harder one? Higher on the ladder, the trap becomes almost invisible because it disguises itself as intellectual sophistication rather than a flaw. This man studies philosophy, history, geopolitics, psychology, subjects that feel weighty, prestigious, worthy of a serious mind. And somewhere in the back of his head, money feels beneath him, vulgar, materialistic. A topic for men who couldn't get into the real subjects, the ones with actual depth. That quiet superiority is expensive, and he never sees the bill until years later. Money is not beneath his intelligence. It's a discipline like any other, with its own logic, its own patterns, its own mastery curve, every bit as intricate as the subjects he considers worthy of his attention. But he never gave it the respect he gave everything else. He skimmed a few books, absorbed some opinions secondhand, and never studied it the way he studied the subjects that flattered him intellectually. He can discuss Nietzsche for an hour, but couldn't explain how a cash flow statement actually works. Meanwhile, a man with a fraction of his vocabulary has read every line of his industry's numbers until he could recite them in his sleep. He respects money enough to study it like a craft, the same way a chess player studies openings. And not because it's glamorous, but because mastery requires respect for the subject, and he gave it that respect early. The purist was too proud to lower himself to that level of attention, and pride, in this case, was simply poverty wearing a nicer outfit. Machiavelli didn't treat power as a lesser subject unworthy of rigor. He studied it with the same intensity scholars gave to scripture and poetry, because he understood that power, like money, rewards obsession, not intellect alone. Nobody becomes wealthy by accident while considering the subject beneath them. Stop treating wealth like it's beneath your mind. Your mind has been unemployed on this particular subject for years, drawing a salary of self-satisfaction while contributing nothing to your actual position. Near the top of the ladder is a man who genuinely believes the world runs on merit and reason. If the argument is sound, the plan is good. If the numbers check out, the outcome should follow naturally, fairly, the way it's supposed to. It feels rational. It's also naive, in a way he'll resist admitting for years. The world doesn't reward the best argument. It rewards the man with the most leverage, the better network, the better position, the better timing, the better access. Logic loses to leverage constantly. In rooms this man is never even invited into, where decisions get made over conversations he never hears about, based on relationships he never built. He keeps trying to win with a better plan, refining the pitch, polishing the numbers, making the case airtight. The wealthy man wins with a better position. He doesn't need the smartest strategy in the room if he owns the room. If the deal was already decided before the meeting started, if the relationship did the work, the argument never could. How many of your ideas are logically airtight and still going nowhere, simply because you have no one to bring them to, no capital behind them, no relationship to open the door that would let the idea matter at all? That's not an intelligence gap. That's a leverage gap, and no amount of additional thinking closes it. Only positioning does. The connections you build deliberately, the capital you accumulate patiently, the reputation you construct on purpose, instead of hoping it forms by accident while you're busy being right. Machiavelli built alliances not because he trusted people, but because alliances were leverage, and leverage decided outcomes that argument alone never could. He didn't out-debate his rivals in the court of ideas. He out-positioned them in the court of consequence, which is the only court that actually rules on anything. You don't need a better argument. You need a better position. Stop refining the pitch nobody's asked to hear. Start building the leverage that gets you into the room where pitches actually matter. At the top of the ladder is the final trap, and it's the one this man refuses to see, because seeing it would mean admitting the truth about himself that every other rung let him avoid. Somewhere inside him is a quiet belief that struggle is for people who don't have better options, that a man of his intelligence shouldn't have to grind through the ugly, humiliating, uncomfortable early years that wealth demands of everyone else. He expects his mind to be a shortcut, a way around the price everyone else has to pay in full. It isn't. Wealth has a toll booth, and intelligence doesn't get you a discount at the gate. The men who build real fortunes pay a price that has nothing to do with IQ, years of rejection, of being broke while pretending they weren't, of doing work far beneath their perceived potential because the work led somewhere, even when it didn't feel like it at the time. They didn't feel too smart for the grind. They understood the grind was the price, non-negotiable, identical for every single person who's ever paid it, regardless of how many books they'd read. He's been waiting for a version of success that doesn't require him to suffer for it, because some part of him believes his intelligence should exempt him from the ordinary toll. It won't. It never will. The market doesn't care how smart you are. It only cares what you are willing to endure to earn your place in it. Machiavelli never promised power without cost. He promised it to those willing to pay whatever the moment required: comfort, pride, reputation, all of it if necessary. Not because suffering is noble in itself, but because it's simply the toll, and refusing to pay it doesn't make you exempt. It just makes you poor with a more impressive vocabulary than the man standing next to you. Here's the mirror. Somewhere on those 7 rungs, you found yourself. Be honest about which one, not the one that flatters you, the one that's actually true. And here's the part almost nobody says out loud. You don't climb this ladder by getting smarter, you climb it by getting simpler. From sleeper to debater, you stop mistaking words for action, and start noticing the gap between what you understand and what you've actually done. From debater to analyst, you stop needing to be right and start needing to be effective, letting go of the small victories that cost you the larger ones. From analyst to underdog, you finally act despite seeing every way it could fail, accepting that the failure you can see is safer than the failure you can't. From underdog to purist, you let go of the story that's kept you small, the one that explained your position without ever requiring you to change it. From purist to logician, you start respecting money enough to study it seriously, the same way you respect anything else you've mastered. From logician to martyr, you stop trusting the best argument and start building real leverage, understanding that positioning beats persuasion every time it counts. And from martyr to something beyond all 7, you simply stop believing you're owed an exemption from the price everyone else has already paid in full. That final rung has no name, because the man standing on it isn't performing intelligence for anyone anymore. He's not proving he's right. He's not protecting a story. He's not waiting to feel ready before he moves. He already paid the price, so nothing left on that ladder has power over him. That's not a smarter man. That's a free one. And freedom, in the end, is the only form of wealth that was ever actually worth climbing for. If this shifted the way you see yourself even a little, don't stop here. What you've heard in this video is only the surface. There are deeper layers to psychology, influence, and wealth that can't be explored fully in one video. Not because they don't exist, but because most people aren't ready to hear them. That's why most stay average. If you're not one of them, subscribe. Every video here is designed to sharpen your mindset, increase your value, and separate you from the crowd. No fluff, no noise, just strategy. Most people will watch this and move on. A few will stay and change. Decide which one you are.